Good afternoon, everyone. It's Marriage Mar here. I want to thank y'all for coming in to the channel on such short notice. I want y'all to hit the like button upon coming in. Give people a couple minutes to come in so that way we can go over this particular issue. We're going to take about an hour, and then we're going to be able to move along about our day here. Because this is important for both men and women, but mostly men. Because I have a lot of insight on these type of cases, especially when it comes to abuse and all that type of stuff. Seen many court martials. What's going on, Black Curl, Seeking My Creator, Masculinity JR. What's going on? Let's give people a couple minutes coming here. Make sure you hit the like button upon coming in, then I'll go through it. Through my prepared remarks here. What's going on, Roman? I did get your email, Ronan. All right, man. Just let me know when you want to come on, man. So, we got like another minute, then we're gonna get started here. And the one in the chat, you can be able to hear me clearly. I think I got some background noise. I just don't want to make sure it's like not interrupting the live stream at all. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. All right, man. Let's get this thing underway. All right. You have to understand that this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing is all the justice was one sided. You have to understand that in today's society, that a person can pretty much libel and slander you, not really go to an actual court case itself, and get you consequences based on those things without even going to a court. They can cause you millions of dollars worth of harm, and there's no trial for you to actually present your case. So you have to realize that you have to go out of your way to present your case to somebody. And of course, with civil trials versus criminal trials, there's a less likelihood for a burden of proof than there is for actual criminal cases. But this is why you got to have your stuff together as a person. This is why you got to have and assemble a team of people to work for you on your behalf. This is why you can't be engaged in consistent risky behavior. And you have to understand the more you stay in a compromising position, the things that you see are normal are clearly not abnormal outside of those circumstances. So let's go through this for my introduction. In a situation like this, where the abuse is clearly defined on one side or another, even if it happens on the other side, it's going to try to be equalized throughout the media. You have to understand that these people got roles in Hollywood based off being a victim of a crime, a perceived crime that wasn't even tried in any type of courtroom. So what you got to realize is the only person who has the most rights in here are the people who's going to go after and get the justice that they seek and that they deserve. What's wrong, Mikey? You have to understand that there was the people who actually defended Amber Heard. I don't think they was paid all that much money to go do so. But you have to realize that once it comes time to present your actual case, it damages your credibility and your reputation when you don't have a case to actually present. There is no reason on the planet Earth that this guy should have suffered anything without any type of proof. But this dude lost his roles. Nobody was really messing with him in Hollywood since the actual claims. Those things are very real. Even though he was a box office smash for tons of years, once that anonymous kind of interview happened with that magazine, it damaged his ability to make money or even get roles beyond that. So what you got to understand is you should not be able to get your self-esteem wrapped up in who's around you. You should get your self-esteem kind of wrapped up in the exhibited level of peace exhibited by oneself. Not the amount of people who's benefiting off of what you're actually going after in life. Because they're going to be there for a specific period of time and then they're going to leave. It's about how much peace do you actually have after all the cameras turn off, after you stop going to these parties and these big bank accounts. That's where the real value of life is kind of at. So you have to understand that there's a difference between the court of public opinion and the court of public record. This person, by actually making the actual claim that they made without even naming somebody, is really an anonymous way of really indicting the person that you're with. What's going on, James Sandman? It really indicts the person that you're with because you wouldn't be bringing up certain things in a certain format without actually naming names unless you're actually going through those things yourself. And normally, people who are actually going through those things, you see, the system works for women, right? The system works for women. A woman can call the police right now and get an actual police officer to take her police report right now when it comes to abuse. As a man, you have to fight for that right to happen, even after the police come out there. Yeah, but at least he did clear his name, Black Curls. That's the whole point of going through all this stuff in the first place. Is making sure that your name is clear with the public record, not really depending on the court of public opinion to kind of take shape and form the way it is. But you got to have your money together in order to be able to fight. There are people here within the manosphere who's been falsely accused of stuff. I've been falsely accused of stuff. When I was in the military, you know what I did? The moment I heard the rumor, before the stuff got any bigger than what it was, I went straight to the IG. Hey man, look, we need an IG inspection about this specific issue. Most people wouldn't put themselves through that type of scrutiny, but I did. Because I seen what happened when these things take over a life of its own. Nobody really talks. And then all of a sudden there's a court martial and somebody's going to jail because there's a story that people have to stick to based on the initial lie that people actually go through. It's very for real. And this is the military. So we're talking like in a civilian format when advertisers and everybody just decide to leave you alone based off of unindictable, unprosecuted claim. You got to be able to clear your name, dude. You got to pay money to clear your name. Yes, you have to pay money to clear your name. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it all on your own. So you have to understand how to protect yourself before you get in these circumstances. You need to have a definite idea of happiness that is independent of somebody's opinion before you even bring other people within your life. That's how you start these things off right, by making sure that your independent level of happiness is not dependent on somebody's opinion of you. Your happiness or that person's level of being attributed to your happiness has to be demonstrated. It cannot be just simply instilled without action. There's a lot of people who stay in a lot of bad and awful situations for a long ass time simply because they cannot have a simple conversation around what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. What's going on, Sean Age? So once you have this independent level of happiness, you can be able to walk in and out of situations the moment that it doesn't fit the actual standards to which you have already attributed to yourself. That's how people get lost. They look at happiness as some codependent type of deal. Like, no, happiness is very independent. You don't need a whole lot of people's opinion for your happiness to be stated. Because trust me, if a person within a relationship isn't happy, the first person who isn't happy are those individuals who speak up first. Now, we know most men in this society are really conditioned to go along to get along and do anything else rather than raise a big stink because we're raised in a society to where you're not taught to fight for yourself. You're not taught to speak up for yourself. You're not taught to really be assertive. You're not taught to really question power. You're not taught the ability to just walk away from a bad situation, especially when you're saturated in music and nonsense that doesn't really tell you how to get out of these situations. They give you the information as if these situations are normal, as if they're normal. That guy has millions of dollars in the bank, but he couldn't get away from his person that he was dealing with for a grand period of time. So when people claim that they have game and they have control or they have some level of demonstrated ability to control things within the environment, think about people who had more millions of dollars to who had far more time, equity, and freedom than everybody else. And look at how this person sat in the courtroom and he had to recount every single thing that happened, embarrassing as it was, for the public to see. Now, when this person made these claims to this actual magazine, there was no one ran to him to ask him his side of the story. No one asked him to come out for his side of the story. Nobody really cared about his side of the story. They just assumed article printed, this guy is an abuser. Period. That's how it is. It's easy to claim that men are abusers. It's very easy to get an audience that way. It's very easy to play the victim card that way. Whether it's right or wrong, it is very easy in society because we don't investigate these type of things within society towards maximum effect. Now the system works when it's for women. I'm just saying that it doesn't work for men. You have to understand that all abuse is wrong. Period. I mean, there's no such thing as this R&B single that's going to teach you how to go back to people that you shouldn't really be with in the first place, who don't really value you as a human being, that you're forced to be with unless you're going to have some financial penalty by losing all of your stuff because you got into a marriage or a long-term relationship that doesn't really suit you. This is why you don't get yourself really intertwined with these personnel in a legal manner. You need to be able to walk out the situation as quickly as you walked into it. Because that's what real power is, the ability to walk away without consequence. And signing a bad legal contract is not going to give you those things. I'm just saying these things are not even possible. Who knows how much money that he spent on his actual defense? The fact that they didn't have a counter argument should have been justice enough for everybody to see. But as I go down this list of things, you're going to realize it really doesn't even matter to some people. Sometimes the claim is just enough for them. You're going to lose those people forever just based off the claim. Doesn't matter how much evidence is shown, they're going to always look at you like the claim. One thing that they don't teach you is that no amount of abuse is ever worth dealing with to keep someone within your life. If you're actually unhappy, you should voice your concerns, and if things do not change, you leave. The onus is not on you to endure anybody's level of abuse, to keep up some social status that don't mean anything. Because if you're not happy, then you're just not happy where you are. You're owed a level and depth of happiness for self. Of course it did. They awarded her $3 million for her claim. This is what I'm saying. There are two people that I know who served time in prison based off a situation like this. When unsubstantiated claims turn into a damn court martial, and just because they spent money on a court martial and the level of proof is really high, those people actually went to prison for that shit. So what you guys have got to understand at some point is that this stuff is still all on you. It's still your responsibility to make sure that you are unscathed by this process. If you feel trapped, you got to talk to somebody about it. That's why all these counselors and all these centers are out here. That's why all these phone numbers are out here. Hey, man, you got to let somebody know something. If this abuse is getting to a point to where it's becoming very hectic for you, listen, man, when you call the police, they're going to do everything in their power to not file a police report. They understand the power of a police report. They understand the power of a police report. They understand the power of that. And most police will do everything in their power to not take your claim, regardless of how you look, regardless of how you do anything. Most police will not even take a police report from you if you've been abused as a man. So we have to go over some things that you have to ask for and do in your own stead to make sure that you get past these things. The first thing you have to do is you have to ask for an officer on charge, on duty, to respond to the actual call. It's very important that you call the police first. If you're the victim, you have to make the call first. You got to make the first move. The person who makes the first move has all the leverage. All the leverage. I don't know how many times Ty City have to tell you, you have to make the move first. Because if you call them out there and somebody's trying to treat you like you weak for calling for help, then you need to get more people on scene. It is very, very easy to get a protection order filed against another person. Very easy. But see, most men don't do it because they have this pride thing. There's nothing prideful about dealing with a level of abuse that you shouldn't be dealing with. If you wouldn't deal with this level of abuse for another man, why the hell would you deal with this level of abuse with another woman? Sometimes it's just not worth being in a relationship if this is the type of stuff that you have to put up with when your ass is in a relationship. Trust me, there's a lot of unhappy people who are trapped in circumstances within this society. They do not want you quitting early. They don't want to be the only one stuck in their relationships without another shoulder to cry on. A lot of these people will coach you into staying in the circumstances that definitely are not going to work for you, just so that way they can feel better about themselves in the situation that they're in. I'm telling you right now, other people are not going to look at things that way. Say it again, man. And this is why I talk about what men need to do. Because if a woman makes a certain type of complaint more than once, the system works fine. But it don't work fine for men. Most times because men don't make the complaint. The second thing is the people who you make the complaint to don't take you seriously. What's going on, NJ Profit? So let's go over something that you can do right now. Let's say that the police come out and they're blowing you off. You know that most police departments have a Twitter and a Facebook. You can do it yourself or you can have somebody else do it on your behalf. Because those actual groups are actually very closely watched by most people within power, especially politicians. Your chief of police may have union representation, but they're hired and they're fired by the mayor of your city. This is why it's very important to tag whenever you are complaining about the police and their lack of response to abuse. It is okay to tag your mayor and your district attorney in that post that you make on Facebook or Twitter on the police's feed. It's okay to complain to the public about how the system is not working for them. Once you make this public proclamation about something that is happening, the police have a duty to respond to it. Because if they see a person who's not being taken care of properly and the entire community sees that it's happening, the community rises up and they also respond to the actual claim made by the person. Yes, you also tag the police chief too. Yeah, Jay Samuel, you're correct. It's okay to not get service from an officer. You have to understand that police reports are filed weeks later, months later, years later for things. If you feel like you ain't getting the appropriate action or traction that you are getting from the level of abuse that you actually have experienced, you don't have to wait forever to get justice. There's a very public way to put these people on blast. And they're not really going to come after you because you brought the actual concern to the rest of the community rather than following the process of calling the 911 system. Now, once you make it a public issue, then they have to respond. I'm telling you these things because they work. I'm not telling you these things because I have no experience with them. This is advice that I give to people all the time. And no matter where you are in the country, no matter what your jurisdiction is, this would give you a hell of a lot more traction rather than getting blown off. Because the level of abuse that this individual went through, there should have been a police report about all this stuff. You have got to take public record and public notice of the things that you're actually going to. Because there was no track record legally to cite. Now, most of these things came from emails and text messages. This is why you got to make sure that you are very careful about the things that you say on social media, and especially within your text message. Because once you open up the avenue of pulling up past text messages, your text messages and past private messages that you think are private on Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff, it becomes public record and it's read into the public record. And most times people are looking for the juicy gossip. They're not even paying attention to your case. What's going on, Lil Rock? So these things are vitally important. But see, you got to have an approach to these type of things before you just hop off in these damn circumstances. Listen, man, they don't have clocks in a casino for a reason. They want you to lose track of time that you spend in a place that your ass should have never been in the first place. Say it again. You have to understand there ain't no clocks in the casino because they want you to lose track of time. That's how abuse is. It's the clock in the casino type thing. It's expecting a clock to be there when you should know that you shouldn't be there for the time period that your ass is there in the first place. So what you guys have got to understand at this point, there's nothing wrong with leaving early. You have to put this pride shit to the side, man. I'm from the South. I have seen many a bite-sized bitch knock the fuck out of grown-ass men. Trust me, them 4'9" women pack a lot of fucking heat when it comes to them goddamn punches, dude. I've seen it myself growing up all my fucking life. Trust me. A lot of dudes wanted to just last through it. Nah, man, you ain't supposed to be lasting through nothing like that. There is no I can take it. There is no I'ma last through this. There ain't none of that. Once it gets to the physical situation, it only escalates until somebody is seriously injured or maybe even killed. Because you always, because an abuser will always up the ante when it comes to a level of control. First time it's things thrown at you. Next time it's things thrown on you. Next time it's things being put inside you. Pills, bullets, you name it. It can really escalate just like that. But see, the person who does this stuff, they feel like they don't need to move. That's why you got to make the decision to leave early and stay out of these situations and stop trying to connect your actual masculinity to the fact that you're in a relationship and that you'd rather be in an abusive ass relationship rather than be alone. You need to learn how to be alone first, then add people to your life who actually treat you appropriate. You see, there ain't no R&B music that teach you shit like that. There ain't no TV show that teaches anything like that. There's none of that stuff. You're actually being socialized into accepting abuse as a regular thing. You're actually being taught and socialized into things happening to you, and you just don't complain about it. Yes, if you're the person being the most affected, your voice is the one that most matters. But see, nobody ever teaches you about these things. You want to know why? They want to be entertained because of the actual idea of you being in these types of situations. They don't come up to you and tell you, like, hey, man, enough's enough. You got to roll out, dude. Well, we can still talk to you. No one ever tells you that type of stuff, right? And here's another thing that people make a mistake with. If you're going to take it to the point to where you get the law involved, you got to have people who testify on your behalf. You have to have people who testify to your actual character. You have to have those things. There is something wrong with a person who is worthwhile, who don't have a level and depth of people who can testify to their self-worth in a courtroom, in a police report, etc. There's something wrong with their situation if you can't have people testify to your actual character. There were people, women, who actually testified to Johnny Depp's character in his actual case. There were women who did that. They didn't come out before, but they definitely was called there to testify when it came time for them to be able to do so. This is why you got to have a track record of non-risky behavior. This is why these things are the most vital and the most important to understand before you get your ass into these situations. You can't have these failed men try to tell you how to actually do these things. You got to have enough sense before you even get into these things to not even be there or to get your ass away from there if these things are actually going on. Yes, you're going to have to pay for your own legal representation. Yes, you're going to have to put the footwork in to make sure that people are treating you right. Yes, you cannot expect the system to actually protect you that doesn't have your best interests at heart. This system is not designed for that. The system is designed to work for the people who complain the most within the framework of the system itself. That's how that works. You cannot wait on other people to do that. You have to do that. You have to put the work in. Nobody's going to do that stuff on your behalf. They don't have nonprofit organizations that men could actually call and be taken totally and completely serious by the law enforcement apparatus. They really don't have that for men, but women have that all the time. And I'm not just trying to get through the men here because there's a lot of young ass dudes who actually go through this same thing. They're socialized into it. They're socialized into not fighting effectively. They're socialized into letting other people control their response to actual abuse. Even though how one-sided this case was, some people on the jury still awarded her money because they wanted to believe her story. You have to realize that, dude, you got to make sure you put the best foot forward when it comes to defending yourself in situations like this. You have got to make certain that you're playing to win. Now, she didn't have a case. Let's keep it real. She didn't have a case. That's why they spent the majority of time asking dumb questions because they didn't have a case and no reason to be in that courtroom. Yeah. A lot of times when you call the police, they're going to treat you like you are the perpetrator. A lot of police are going to treat you like you are the perpetrator. But you got to be able to have a plan where you actually deal with the police. You actually got to have an end goal because the police come out there and they're trying to gaslight you into saying some stupid shit so that way they can just dismiss you and jump in the car and get up out of there. You got to not be afraid of the system in order to use the system against other people. That apparatus is in place. You got to make sure that people are actually watching your back. That's why you make it a public and a community issue when it's not adhered to. You have to understand how your women friends can work on your behalf to a greater effect when things like this happen. Not just the ones who testify in court. Let's say that you ain't getting no traction through the actual police department on their Twitter or on their Facebook feed. You have one of your female friends go to Facebook or Twitter on your behalf and tell your actual story on your behalf. Because women will come to another woman's defense when it comes to abuse a hell of a lot faster than women would come to the defense of another man when it comes to abuse. Let me repeat that. Women will come to another woman's defense way faster, and a lot of other men will too, rather than you just making your claims on your own as a man. Again, it's about leveraging the actual system so that way you can get the result that you actually want. That's what I'm saying. You got to take action. And if that action don't work, you got to have to be able to take more action to put more and more leverage for people to actually take you seriously. That's why you have to be involved in politics. Because whether your actual district attorney is appointed or whether you can donate money to his or her actual campaign, that shit matters. I donate to mine. I show up whenever they have these police functions for a reason. When they see this face, I want them to know, oh shit, that's a dude that participates in the process. Oh shit, that's a dude who actually cares about this actual outcome. This is a person who served on jury duty. Yeah. I want them to know that I'm a part of this system too. And you ain't about to do nothing wrong to me without me going after someone else. You cannot suffer in silence when it comes to things like this, man. Especially as a man, that whole suffer in silence stuff becomes complicity. People think that you're complicit, that somehow you need to work it out with the other party. You can't work out abuse. That's already above board. That's already way too far when it comes to actual abuse, especially what this dude was going through. There was no level of communication that was going to get this person to understand that that stuff was wrong. What's going on, Joy 85? What's going on, Guy King? What's going on, Tasha and ER? Snuggles, Dollar Washer. Yeah, but that's where we at, man. Like, this is what I like. This is the thing that leveraging my law enforcement experience, telling you how this stuff really works, because no one is going to tell you about all the stuff that I've talked about. This is real world stuff that you can actually use within your life. Real world stuff that you can actually tell somebody about and it actually works for them. I give the same information to the men I'm around, same information to the women I'm around, young people I'm around, etc. Nobody deserves to be mistreated. Period. If you don't feel at home when you go home, then you need to find another place to go. Nobody really teaches you how to be alone and happy while being alone because everybody's trying to sell this codependency nonsense that really doesn't work all that well for the actual person who has the perceived less power within that actual environment itself. And like I said before, you're going to find out exactly who's on your side the moment these things come up. There's some people that you're not going to be able to unconvince no matter how much evidence they are, no matter how much videotape there is. Some people are going to have it set in their mind that your ass is guilty no matter what happens. And it is not your job to go outside the bounds of reason to drag them back into the bounds of reason. That's not your job, man. Your job is to present the case, your job is to present the facts, and then move along with your life, man. Making sure that your ass is okay is your only responsibility. And that responsibility is only yours. It's not anybody else's. It definitely isn't. Because once you have it down and once you go through this process, because it's going to be kind of scary at first, it's going to be a shot in the dark at first. But the moment you go through this process, hold on a second, Xander, because I'll get to that question. Yeah, but that's what you have to do. But no matter how good or bad the response is, you got to have enough sense to be not attracted to these actual situations before you get your ass into these situations in the first place. You got to have enough sense to not to have your self worth being caught up in somebody else's ability to be around you. You got to make them earn their place around you, not you earn your place around them. That's why you work on your own power and your own ability to be able to have a level of self worth that is not codependent on other people's opinion. Zantos Clutch, I really wouldn't go that far. I would just buy property where I actually want to be at. Because most of these people I just don't want to be around and I don't really care about all that much. So the buying a property around these people, like, nah, man, I want to go where I'm actually comfortable and safe at. And I don't care how far I got to go to get there. I'm not going to try to be around people who are not socially acceptable to me. We're at the point now to where we can design our own happiness without all of this stuff that we grew up with. I wouldn't go that far. I mean, but most of the places I own where I'm at anyway. So I don't have to worry about that. I have enough stake in the actual community itself to where I have a lot of pull in what goes there and what don't go there. But again, you still got to have your stuff together for all this stuff to work. You got to be able to clearly understand that you matter more than they do. Your whole life is supposed to be an indictment on the people that you was raised around and all that stuff. You're supposed to have a point to where you kind of level out to where you have a good ass life without all this nonsense around. And it's kind of hard to do that if like a lot of these people want to be around the same stuff forever. I'm just saying this: leave early, have better experiences early, and leave this stuff behind early. Because the longer you stay, the harder it is going to be able to leave. The longer you stay, the more normalized this stuff becomes. You want to normalize this type of behavior around people, man. You don't want to do it. It doesn't make any sense for you to do that. If they don't know how to treat you with respect, you treat yourself with respect and move around cultured individuals. Cultured individuals really know how to keep to themselves and know how to operate within the community. These people would never talk those type of things. You have to understand that, man. You're dealing with a lot of uncultured people, man. You're dealing with a lot of people who dysfunction is normal for them. Not having peace is normal to them. Making people put up with things that they shouldn't put up with is normal to them. I tell people on front, I'm not trying to be tolerated by anybody. I can walk away anytime I want to. And I want to reserve the right to leave and seek higher ground. But you can't seek higher ground if you ain't got your shit together. Yeah, you're supposed to be losing for some period of time, but your lifestyle and your whole life ain't supposed to be losing, man. Your whole life ain't supposed to be centered around other people's opinions. It is for a specific time period, but at some point, you got to level up out of that shit. I'm not telling you anything that I haven't done myself. And yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to be shots in the dark. But at the end of the day, your best life that you're trying to create is not going to be celebrated around these people anyway. You're only going to see these people at holiday parties or holidays or get togethers. All this stuff ain't got nothing to do with your long term ability to be happy without these people around. I agree, Guy King. Hey, well, that's different. If you know that that's going to happen, why wouldn't you get in early in an area that's going to be able to have a come up in years? Now, if that's the case and that's the actual trajectory of where it's going, you'll be a damn fool not to own a couple pieces of property there that's going to be skyrocketing already in a couple years or less than a decade. Yeah. Okay. Right after the tornado in Joplin, I bought property in Joplin, like once they cleaned it off and all that kind of stuff. Dude, Joplin was back in less than 3 years. I got like 100 times the investment of what I bought the property from the county tax assessor's office. It didn't seem like a good investment at the time, but that place came back quick as hell. Yes, it is very much worth getting in on the ground floor. If you have an idea that that's exactly the way those things are going to go, dude, this is what the land sharks do. They always have the trajectories down and how these things work and the actual forecast of things are going to be there, all that stuff. Go to the county assessor's office. You can see all the businesses that's supposed to be open in there, the new construction that's going on there, dude, a whole bunch of stuff. But see, you got to be invested and connected to this actual process in a meaningful way in order for that to happen. Remember, if you don't participate in a democracy, nobody really comes and try to find people who ain't being represented and hand them something. That's not how that works in a democracy. It's either you show up or you don't get represented. That's the only two options. You show up or you don't get represented. That's how that works. He got awarded 15 million. She got awarded 3. For what reason? I have no idea. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have to put the work in to get the 15 million like Johnny Depp did. Everybody knew how wrong it was. Nobody got off their ass and tried to get that dude justice. He had to go get his own justice. You have to be unafraid when challenging power. Because if you don't know how the system works and you don't understand the actual process, you can give up the fight before you even start fighting at all. Which is what a lot of these people want you to do anyway. Oh, that's nice, guy King. Yeah, man. Hey, listen, I'll stay with it, especially how these tiny homes are becoming more and more affordable and more durable, and land is becoming cheaper and cheaper in the South. I'll stay there. I get a fat ass payout, go buy me a whole bunch of land, and put a nice property on there where I could be able to work remote with nobody around. That's worth it. Because you don't have a lot of people trying to leverage their own happiness. That's not tied to some product or another. A lot of these people want to see you trapped in that Johnny Depp shit. It's not worth it, man. It's not worth it at all. Being in an abusive ass situation, being in an abusive ass relationship. But you got to put yourself in position with your own productivity. Because expecting people to do things because it's the right thing to do, it never works. It never happens. You got to go out there and seek your own justice. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. I'm the man tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this type of content. If not, you guys have a really nice day. Thank you for coming out. You guys have a really nice afternoon. Later.